Welcome friends to Chaoticism. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R series is well known for its iconic weaponry used in all three games with an addition here and there. Okay, yeah, we know. In the zone, you shoot, you loot, and you heal bullet wounds with band-aids to boot. A few months ago, I posted my knife-only run of Shadow of Chernobyl, an absolutely wild ride. The natural next step was to take on the sequel, Call of Pripyat, as there are no helicopter boss fights and forced sniping like in Clear Sky. So we should be in the clear for some London Street Simulator, right? Much like the first game, the knife sucks butt, but that was compensated for with the ability to instantly consume little tin boxes of life essence at the press of a button. However, Call of Pripyat went a different route. Instead of instantly healing you, medkits now simply increase your health regeneration and bleeding control for a short period of time, making medkit spam tactics a thing of the past. Gone are the days of face tanking a barrage of damage, because let me tell you, Call of Pripyat on Master Difficulty ain't fucking around. God damn it! For this hot serving of agony, we have but 3 rules. Knife only, no shit, no manual saving, although Call of Pripyat is pretty generous in this regard. And what, pray tell, could the last rule be, Chaos? No armor? Yeah, get out of here. You'll see why in just a moment. No artifacts? Nuh-uh. Though not as useful as Jank of Chernobyl's, the artifacts here still give us a nice little boost. The final rule, boys and girls, is no diplomacy. The zone is devoid of women for a reason, so that men may solve problems their way through good old-fashioned violence. As an extension to this rule, I will be doing most of the side missions, or there will be nearly zero meaning. One of the first things you will notice is that, unlike the first game, I am not relying on the knife's secondary power attack. The range on this bad boy has been severely diminished, as was the animation's weight having zero impact, unlike the face-thrusting pain train that was its first iteration. Instead, the primary quick slash will be our main method of whooping ass, with it having a more reliable reach and a totally wicked attack speed. Without further ado, I present to you Bloodsuckers. Mutants hit pretty damn hard, and their ability to lock you in place upon the slightest tickle is frankly overpowered. These Bloodsuckers, however, were calling me daddy on my 3rd attempt when I figured out they leave their back exposed. Grouse and I then snuck in by one of their murders and got conveniently dumped out by the first helicopter we must investigate. I picked up the noxious gas from the destroyed convoy and, since we were already in the area, paid the mercs a visit. Al gives you a mission to steal their laptop, and GSC was kind enough to give us a few nice points of entry to sneak our way in. The pipe being the only correct avenue, as that lands you right next to the laptop on the 2nd floor, with everywhere else being coated in a nice thick layer of enemy eyeballs. I got in and out with no issues, giving one of the mercs a cheeky slap on the back as I zipped out of their compound with laptop in hand. My god, is this game wide open. Stamina is limited, and GSC neutered the stamina artifacts with the only reliable stamina source being S.T.A.L.K.E.R energy drinks. Don't worry ladies and gents, I will solve this problem about halfway through the game. Trust me. I was now gassing the Bloodsuckers. Normally the game wants you to hang around for the 45 seconds it takes this stuff to wipe them out while simultaneously fighting off a short wave. But it's no secret that you can just leave and not deal with it. I now focused my attention on the zombie village to get the basic tools and swag out my drip with the mechanic. We all know zombies are slow, dumb, and can't aim for shit. I took advantage of this by slinking my way around, taking them out one by one. God damn it! And where was my last autosave? Fuck, there went 20 minutes. This did not go as smoothly as the first time due to the mercs camping the 2nd floor and pelting my hole. A couple deaths in, I decided against the front door and just leapt off the catwalk. My systematic killing of the zombies this time around was much better with my newfound respect for the barrel of their guns. You'll notice me start doing this little half-moon strafing tactic at this point. It appeared to me this made the AI lead their shots against a blatantly point-blank target and allowed me to avoid getting shot approximately 60% of the time. I stop and go'd on back to the Skidovsk, offloaded my loot, and immediately turned around to zoom off to the southwestern corner of the map. Chopper investigated, and floating ball of telekinetic energy flayed. I thought it best to go for the fine tools that the hungry mercs were hiding in their closet. Unfortunately for these starving boys, the zone too was hungry for blood. So I got to work getting murdered. As it turns out, small high-velocity projectiles like the 5.56 in their rifles scoff at the bedsheet that is the Sunrise suit. Including their high ground into my calculation upon realizing big boy guns hurt lots, I tactically retreated to return again another day when my armor was better. I met up with the neighborhood kook, Noah, who took me to a flooded field of burner anomalies with no babes. Damn, tricked again. By some miracle of God, however, I managed to not get cooked by them and jumped into the portal ball to the plateau. You can eat my ass if you think I'm fighting the Snorks up here. Their attack speed and bullshittery was definitely not nerfed since the previous games in the series. Another helicopter investigated and we were on track to go to Jupiter. But first, we avenged Grouse, who was getting juiced on by the boat's doctor. Yummo, bro. The first thing I did in Jupiter was talk to Uncle Yar. He took me on a mesmerizing early morning stroll through a village infested with zombies. Definitely putting that in my eHarmony bio. To watch a few mercenaries get completely devoured by them. Once the dust settled, I took to loot in the battle zone. One single zombie remained, wandering aimlessly amongst the dead. Easy pickings, I thought to myself. Oh my fucking god, this is literally the whole run. I survived my second date and did a lot of faffing about. I'm talking a lot. Up to and including falling for the oldest trick in the book. The rest isn't really worth talking about. Being preemptive, I thought I'd clear Vano's debt since I was next door. I casually walked in and talked to the bandit leader. And diplomatically paid the debt myself. Challenge failed.
I'm such a loser.
I swear to God, I thought I clicked the option that would piss him off. You know, the one where I say, I've got this shooter here, when I clearly don't. Time to use that last save option in the main menu. What the hell? I muttered to myself upon loading into the game. I was expecting to go back to the Stingray crash since that was the last thing I did to trigger an autosave. As it turns out, selecting the option to pay the debt initially was a boon, because it created an autosave called Vano's Debt Paid before I actually paid the debt, meaning I had the perfect resurrection point. Given this second chance, I introduced Jack to my 7.5-inch schwacker.
That's quite big.
Hashtag not a euphemism. Thus began a long and excruciating experience. Slaying Jackass and the bozo behind me started an impossible war with every single bandit, all of them having a goddamn shotgun. And guess where we were? A shotgun's wet dream in a tight hallway. I had no chance against these boomsticks. I used every tactic I knew, ambushing around a corner, sprinting at them when I thought they were empty, and the elegant dance of death. On my last few attempts, I found a promising trick where I set up shop behind the door, leaned out as little as possible, and dished out locally sourced, FDA-approved filet mignons. Business both did and did not boom, however, and I was once again left to reconsider my life's choices. It was clear my armor was not up to the current task at hand. It was now time to upgrade. The sunrise suit I started the game with just wasn't cutting it. In fact, it hadn't for a long time. But if there's one thing I hate, it's change. I returned to the S.T.A.L.K.E.R and ordered an armor suit from Nimble. And guess what you get for this option, huh? A fucking Clear Sky uniform. Don't worry, Cardan. I need to be drunk to work on anything Clear Sky too, bud. Since the money was already wasted, I went to test it out. I headed back to the Hungry Mercs and tried unsuccessfully to parkour my way into the back area. I then fucked around and found out the hard way that the Clear Sky suit was a waste. Doubly validated when I got wrecked by the wounded Chimera. Go figure. I just let the homies clap them. We'll get our chance later with a full-strength Chimera. Trust me, I did not forget. Did you think my suffering with mutants was over, boyo? Cause you're dead wrong. Guarding your mama's multi-stage butt plug were a few of her simps, who, at this point, are worthless to talk about. However, upon picking up this valuable treasure, a wild controller appears to just wreak havoc. No longer is this brainy boy a dormant slicing bag, as he brought the hands. The motherfucking hands, bro. Getting in close to go ham with my knife is a death sentence, as just 2 karate chops is enough for the controller to put me down. And for the 1000th time, you cannot get away due to your legs suddenly ceasing all function the moment the mutant touches you. The first thing I needed to do was get away from the loners with guns. The train car provided good cover once I was on the outside of the tunnel. Next, I needed to get the controller into a spot where I could quickly hide from his mind attack. The corner of the tunnel provided good cover. Next was to bait him into flaying my mind from the perfect distance so I could lunge in and slice him up a time or two, then leap back to safety as he cancels the mind attack with the pimp slap. I actually ran out of medkits here, because after every single attack, he managed to give me a little slap on the ass that I was forced to heal up lest I died to his minefield or the backhand. But with enough patience and practice, he finally went down. My god, that was booty. But no time to rest because I was on to the next hunt, which honestly was super easy because I just stood in front of these bureaus and slashed away. Okay, so long ago I failed to mention I also ordered an exoskeleton from Nimble, which was now ready for pickup. The downside to this behemoth of a suit was that you cannot sprint with it equipped unless you get the tier 3 upgrade. But tier 3 upgrades require tier 3 tools, and those were in Pripyat. But looking at my death counter this far in the run left me no choice but to put it on now. Oh yeah, baby. Without sprinting, our new fastest form of movement was hopping everywhere we went.
So slow. You might as well not have legs.
It was time to go visit Jack and his gang of asses. Wearing this exoskeleton had the bandits reeling out of fear. They didn't dare pull the trigger as I butchered them in the doorway. The one guy who got a few shots off found out the hard way that I was the master now. Next on the agenda was to rescue Mite from the other bandit base. But honestly, boys, I just strutted up knife in hand and went to town. The bandits stood zero chance against me, the big murder bunny. They were clearly not ready for an exoskeleton-clad Chad. From here, I recruited the boys and made my descent into the underground. Keeping them alive was not not a rule, because it was hard enough to keep myself alive, so I just left them behind every time. Close your eyes and let me play a sound for you. If overwhelming dread and anxiety was not your first reaction to hearing the snarl of a rodent, then you know not the same traumatic stress I experienced in this underground hell. Even though these little ankle-biting bastards are the smallest, most insignificant creature in the zone, they somehow end up being one of the most deadly. Their little claws slash so fast and hit so unbelievably hard, combined with the fact they're like 6 inches tall, requiring you to drop to the ground in order to slash their tiny, hard to hit bodies. Most encounters with a rodent left me half a liter of blood away from death. What about the Snorks, I hear you asking? What about the Snorks? The only time they were a bother was when waiting for the big door to open due to there being a couple behind and now 10 closing in front of you. And did I mention I cannot sprint? Also, the only autosave in this sequence is right at the start. After getting nibbled to death a few too many times, I took to just jumping around these little rodents and the few Snorks that spawn. Just about every time I got through this sequence, between one and all of my companions would be dead. The single hardest part was surviving the Snork ambush. Once all of them are inside the tunnel, they seem to develop a hive mind and end up trapping me in the patty cake circle jerk of certain death. Eventually though, I figured out I needed to hop around a little more to let the Snorks spread out and attack my companions so I could unsafely enter the dome room. Getting up the ladder gave me a bit of reprieve, as the monolith didn't spawn until you flipped the switch. And let me tell you, the monolith ain't playing no games here, buddy. Their high caliber weaponry shredded the exoskeleton I wore, so hustling was a must. The control booth, despite being high ground, was definitely not safe due to the monolith putting their star pitcher on control booth defense. My god, what an arm. Running through again, I actually made it past the monolith ambush with all my companions somehow alive. But I wasn't waiting. The goal was right there. I thought my armor would protect me from the small caliber weaponry of the zombies, but I got clapped right before the ladder. Damn. My winning run was pretty wild, so strap in. Going up to the Snork ambush was pretty usual. What was unusual is I risked a lot to get on top of this cart, which did nothing to protect me when the Snorks did their leap attack. But hey, they couldn't surround and trap me, so that was a plus. Once the way was clear, I hippity hopped my way to the ladder and activated the switch. The ladder was too crowded with mutants and I was getting pelted by the monolith, so I leapt onto one of the storage cars and waddled up to the control room with the Snork in tow. I didn't want to risk fighting him, so I let him live, despite having a swipe attack that seemingly ignored the y-axis coordinates. After flipping the lever to move into the final portion, I heard 2 grenades explode in the booth as I departed. Any slower and I would have been pink mist. One of the 2 monolithians who spawned in the exit was dead, while the other had to reload right as I got there. Since 3 of the homies were still alive, I actually decided to wait for them this time around and preemptively cleared out the deadly rodents and Snorks. I grouped up and allowed my boys to blast the zombies that waited ahead. My biggest contribution from this point forward was executing the zombies writhing in agony on the ground. Finally, we were out of this shithole with everyone but Zulu, rest in peace, and on to the next, arguably worse mission. Unidentified weapon pits 4 soldiers and us against a horde of monolith zealots. Aside from the massive hail of bullets a group of monolith brings in the tight corridors, the only real scare is the monolith in the courtyard due to them being covered by an overwatch. A single shot from the Gauss rifle guy will kill you. Medkits are enough to survive an individual monolith and they're pretty well spread out to make killing them not much of an issue. What is an issue, as I'm sure you've noticed, is the main target for this mission is way the fuck up on top of a building that we have no method to ascend. Put a big fat asterisk here. With my gun-toting allies all dead, we were at an impasse. I then attempted to keep the military boys alive by killing all of the monolith again as quickly as possible. What I realized after the fact is that running off and engaging the monolith right away will fail to trigger the soldiers, keeping them in place and nearly guaranteeing 3 of them surviving the brawl. Approaching him at this point, this time, triggered their animation and caused the survivors to get into position. Knowing that they wouldn't fight back in this scripted sequence, I tried my hand at distracting the HIV. Unfortunately, I was put down before the boys finished their movement. Boner. Round 3, I once again systematically slaughtered all of the monolith in the rooms by ambushing them as they sat on their knees, sucking the imaginary cock of the monolith. But I ran into a problem. The military dudes wouldn't move after the bloodbath. So I gave one a good luck slash on the ass and they proceeded to kill me much faster than intended. Fuck. Since the military dudes wouldn't move anymore, I decided to start their scripted movement, then use my knowledge of the monolith positions to dwindle their numbers before all of the military guys died. I was successful with 1 survivor. I gave him a sniper rifle, but we still had a problem. He wouldn't move again. and this position had no clear view of the Gaussy guy, so he wasn't going to engage him on his own. I opened up Dude2's third eye to get him moving and ran to the other building and prayed for the best. Unfortunately, a highly trained soldier with a sniper rifle and an entire building to cover behind, pitted against a lone lunatic standing on the edge of a building, was not an equal match. Go figure. After a total of 7 rounds slaughtering a building full of monolith and trying everything I could think of to get the homies to clap the Gauss rifle monolith, I was at a loss. I couldn't get a soldier to do the one thing they've been trained their entire military career to do: shoot at the enemy. So I was left with one option: kill him myself. I broke the golden rule, picked up a sniper rifle, and shot the Gauss rifle monolith in the head. To add insult to injury, one shot with the sniper rifle wasn't even enough to kill him. I had to shoot him twice. Alright boys and girls, Editor Chaos here. I want to show you the craziest shit. So here you can see I am dead nuts centered on this guy's head. I usually use the crotch of the chevron as opposed to the tip, and we're like right on his eyeball. If we go to the next frame, see my shot breaks. Next frame, here's my bullet going straight at his head. Next frame, okay, yeah, it's a little off center, but it's still going for like his forehead. Next frame, boom, misses by a pixel. Look at that shit. And I can prove to you that it's flying in the air still, because the next frame, it's still flying. That particle gets smaller. You can see right here, it's right in front of him, miss. Keeps going and disappears into infinity. You can still kind of see it behind all the pixelation here, that bullet's still flying. So as it turns out, it didn't take 2 shots. I just fucking missed. However, after completing this run, I looked up other crazy motherfuckers doing knife-only runs. No, I'm not the first. And stumbled upon Super Vlad G. This madman spent the better part of an hour pushing a chair up a staircase and through a hail of high-velocity projectiles. Why, you might ask? To do a proxy jump. In layman's terms, if the player character gets stuck inside another dynamic object, they will be repelled away with varying degrees of force. I actually did one by accident earlier in the run with this group of Tishkanos that swarmed under a table. Super Vlad G managed to get a crazy high launch off the chair and landed on the roof where the monolith dude was and skewered him. I'm not gonna recreate this, so hats off to you, homie. That was nuts. You'll also notice in his video that the monolith guy doesn't die from an emission, so that option's out. Why in the hell didn't I think of that? Taking the weapon to Cardan, he tells us about a secret lab in the southwestern corner of Zatan we needed to procure some documents from. On the way to the lab, since I had the exoskeleton on, I decided to pay the Hungry Mercs a visit to get those tools. But they must have died of starvation, because they were gone. Instead, I got to test my metal on the pseudo-giant down here. That's right, I'm not running away this time. The homeboy was irradiated like crazy, so I put on as many radiation absorbing artifacts as I could and got to work. The pseudo-giant hits like a tank engine and looks like one too, but getting behind him allows me to follow in his footsteps and slowly whittle down his health through death by 1,000 cuts. Despite his girth, he can turn around nearly instantaneously and lay the smackdown. For the stomp attack, I had no choice but to keep my distance as massive damage was incoming and his elite auto-aim hacks kept him facing towards me. Not to mention the fact we were stuck in place for a few seconds. After 4 minutes, 0 deaths, and like 30 medkits eaten, the beast was laid to rest. Now was the time to descend into Lab X8. But first we needed to check on a homie who started going nuts. And guess what? It's actually a controller doing the dirty to his mind. This was not much less difficult than the first controller. Despite our insane armor rating, the DPS this controller dishes out was still too much to handle. But he went down after downing me twice and I was onto the service center. Climbing up this tower, circles of hell were honestly not that bad due to the exoskeleton. I was able to jump in and slice the zombies and monolith fighters before they could put too many holes in me. Large numbers of enemies are also a rare sight due to the tight corridors and spawn patterns, so I could out-heal any damage that came my way. Down the hatch we go, and oh my god, fuck X8. I ran down, hopped down, grabbed one document, and got chased out by a swarm of rodents. You're insane if you think I'm fully doing this place. We were nearing the end, and so far we only had one arguably reducible failure on the board, but the kindergarten would change that. Once getting in and cutting down the bleeding balls of electric discharge, we were faced with an impassable object, a wooden structure. This thing was an antenna used by the monolith to jam our communications, and we needed to destroy it. I swear to God, I knifed every square inch of this jammer for over an hour and was unable to get it to break. I knew of no ways to skip past it, and every video I watched did this part the intended way. To rub salt and a lemon in the wound, it took not one, but 2 grenades to blow up. Oh my god, bruh. But after that was the race to the finish. literally. Upon exiting the doors of the laundromat, you get ambushed by a horde of zombies, which was my deciding factor in just bunny lining it to the helicopters that landed in the north side of town. I weaved through another large group of zombies, after which I was given disembodied dialogue that informed me I had but 1 minute until the choppers left, and I was still about a city block away. It took me nearly 30 seconds to get up to the nearest building to the helicopters, at which point I got ambushed by 2 monolith boys. I took the one with the shotgun out for fear of him blasting me away. With him dead, I had just 20 more seconds to hop across the square through a hail of gunfire. With literally 2 seconds remaining, I made it and took off with every single soldier of Operation Stingray and S.T.A.L.K.E.R having died due to abandonment. And yes, the helicopters will leave your ass if you're late. So can you beat Stalker Call of Pripyat with just a knife? Unfortunately not. 2 obstacles stand in your way, or 1 if you're insane enough to dedicate an hour or so to push a chair up some stairs and through a volley of precision fire, leaving only 1 true barrier: the kindergarten jammer. Unless you have to knife this thing for hours on end, I can only imagine being able to bypass this obstacle by glitching into the floor beneath it and somehow talking to the soldier down here, as all the windows have invisible barriers preventing you from slinking on in. Trust me, I've tried. Although I'm pretty sure destroying the jammer is a necessary flag to forward the mission progress. If anyone finds anything out, tag me or send me an email. I'd love to give this game the Golden Knife Award. And before you light me up in the comments, I went back after the run and slew the beast that was the Chimera. After 4 rounds of getting pounced, killing me in like 1 or 2 hits, I managed to stay close and underwhelmingly slash his lights out with what seemed like a face stab. I hope you all are as excited about Stalker 2 as I am. Have a good day, and don't forget to tell your elderly family members you love them. Peace.